everyone, welcome to our cookie decorating class. My name's Denise.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we're here to teach you about how to decorate these adorable bee-themed cookies. So before we get started, we should have them grab a few things. So first of all, wash your hands because you're going to be touching all of your cookies and you want to have clean hands to handle them. Also, grab something to put on your surface, like a piece of parchment paper or tablecloth. A cookie sheet would be fine. Anything to cover up your table. A pair of scissors, and then some toothpicks. Those are really handy for spreading out icing. Napkins, paper towels would be great too. So after you grab those things, we can jump right into our cookie kits.
All right.
So let's see what's inside. It's like an unboxing video. Check out all the fun. We're just gonna set everything out. Don't trim any of the piping bags quite yet. We wanna show you exactly how that's done. So there's 4 colors of icing. We have a special sprinkles container to use. And we have our cookies.
The practice sheet we'll need first.
We'll need that one first. Practicing is so important. Even if you've decorated cookies with us many times, it's great to be able to practice. It's like a warm-up. You know how athletes always do a warm-up before their game? You've got to do a warm-up before cookie decorating. So, we've got our practice sheet. And let's show you how to trim the piping bags. So, you're going to be tempted to just snip off quite a bit. But try and hold back. Don't snip off too much.
Yeah, it's always better to just trim off a little bit because you can always do more, but you can't do less.
You've got it. So trim off just a little bit, and then let's talk about how to hold the bag. So we're both right-handed. So our right hand, the hand we write with, goes at the top of the piping bag, and our other hand just kind of helps steady it along, guide it along. You're gonna squeeze with your right hand, and we're not gonna touch the tip of the bag to the paper. We'll hover above just a little bit as we go along and try and trace over the lines. Now, stopping the icing at the end can be a little bit tricky. I want to teach you how to stop the icing. So when I get to the end of my line, I actually stop squeezing at the same time I push down and pull up. So it all happens in one solid motion. So I'm squeezing a little bit, and now I stop, press down, release.
It'll almost look like there's 2 little dots at each end of the line.
Exactly. If you don't press down, I think you risk like the icing just kind of trailing off a little bit, which is not a problem. We're just helping you with your technique. You'll get the hang of it the more you practice.
And if your icing is not coming out easily, you might need to cut it bigger. You might need to cut your bag bigger.
Yeah, if it's skipping a lot, if it's not coming out in a smooth stream, that might be an indication that it's not trimmed quite enough.
And while you're leading your icing across the line, kind of look what's coming up instead of right where you're at, so you can just lead the icing along.
That's true. It's always good to look ahead so your hand can lead the way. These series of lines always remind me of like roller coasters.
Yeah, or waves.
Yes. Circles. These are the trickiest ones, you guys. So just do your best. This is always the most challenging shape.
Yes, the circle's the toughest, so don't feel bad if you don't get it perfectly on the lines, because we're not going to have too many circles to do today on the cookies either.
Yeah.
And then you guys can all just move at your own pace.
Yeah, if we're going too fast for you, feel free to pause it. Cookie decorating kits, they're really something that you can just relax with. I feel like it's such a fun activity that can help you just escape a little bit from anything that's on your mind and just focus on accomplishing something fun. with a really sweet outcome in the end too.
Yeah. I love cookie decorating because I can just let everything go and just focus on the cookies, and it's like a little mini vacation.
It is. I love that. I wish I could see how all of your practice is going. I bet you guys are doing a great job. So we can set these aside when we're done with them. It was just for a warm-up, so we don't need to do anything with them. So get those up out of the way, and then why don't we dig into our cookies?
All right.
Let's talk about what shapes they are. We'll cut them out of the cellophane bags.
You should each have 6 cookies.
Depending on how you hold the cookies, if they're upside down or not. See if you can try and guess what they are before we say. All right, so maybe we can show you a little bit about what shapes they are and what they're going to become. So how about you hold up the decorated cookie when I hold up. Here's the bear head. And look how cute. I just love him. A little honey bear. There's a heart that is just going to be a fun one to decorate within the theme. You can write a word on it in the end. You can really have fun with this one and just do anything you'd like.
Yeah, lots of freedom with that cookie.
Yeah. This one is so interesting depending on how you hold it, but it's a little bee.
It's a little bumblebee.
I love his antenna on top. So this hexagon, we thought it would be fun to be able to do like a little honeycomb look on it, or also you could use it as a blank canvas and just have some creative freedom. Here's our little beehive. I love these little sprinkles, and this one too. I thought you were maybe holding up this one. I want to show them this one too.
Yeah, and the bee
The
sprinkle.
little bee sprinkle.
Those are so fun.
And then we have a flower because bees need to find the pollen. So I'm gonna arrange them in front of me. I'm gonna put the trickier shapes, not tricky, like you guys can do all of this, but I'm going to put some of the shapes in the top row because we'll do those second, and we're going to do the hexagon, the beehive, and the flower first. I feel like the hexagon is a great one to start with because of the straight lines.
Yeah, that is a good
Because it's good as we transition now to the cookies to be able to outline with some straight lines in the beginning. When we decorate cookies, we divide it into 3 separate steps. We first start with outlining, and then we do flooding, and then we do the detailing where we add the cute little touches. So why don't we trim the other bags so they're all ready. Trim it just about like the one you started with on your practice sheet.
And if you weren't happy with how your lines turned out on your practice sheet, maybe go a little bit smaller than before.
That's a great suggestion. We included some extra piping bags in your kit in case there was any type of over trimming accident. You could always rebag that icing. But we also have those extra bags available so that we can rebag later and maybe have a very fine point for the detailing. So I always like to get all my supplies set up before I get started. Having a napkin handy for me because I get messy. I think you might
I get
relate to
really
that.
messy.
Elizabeth sometimes gets so messy, and it's my favorite thing ever. When she leaves work, sometimes she just like has icing on her lap.
I have icing on my shoes, on my face, on my shirt.
It's okay. It's a sign of a job well done.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so when we decorate our cookies, we want to, first of all, remind you to use creative freedom. We're gonna show you just a few ways you can decorate these. You can do whatever you'd like to do with these cookies. You can make the color choices that you'd like. We want you to have complete freedom. So we're here to give you some examples, but please just take this and run with it. If you're feeling inspired to do something, go for it. So when you put your icing onto the cookie, I suggest you try and go as close to the edge as you can without going over. All right, so let's start with our hexagon. And we're just going to go as close as we can with these straight lines. And when you get to that curve, I don't stop my line, but I kind of pause for a moment. It helps me to shift gears and make it more of a cornered angle.
I pause for a little too. I almost put a thicker amount there so the line can continue.
Right. So we're just outlining at this stage. We're not going to fill it in yet. We're just outlining. All right, so with the honeycomb, I'm going to use this honey color. That is so cute. And I'm just going to outline the whole shape of the cookie. When we do the detailing, we'll show you ways that you can add some of the special touches, but that all happens at the very end. We're just going to outline this whole shape. And on this beehive or honeycomb, I wonder what it's actually called. Do you think it's a beehive or a honeycomb?
Beehive.
Okay. I guess the honeycomb is what's found inside the beehive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're doing this, if you notice that your line is breaking and it's not one solid line, you might be putting too much pressure on it. So I would cut the hole a little bit bigger and then just go steady pressure all the way around.
And when we say cut it a little bit bigger, we're talking like the teeniest little snip actually makes a really big difference. All right, so why don't we do the flower?
All right. You can do whatever color you'd like.
Any color. I like the repetition in the flower. It's like your hand has memory, and so you just keep repeating the same pattern. Now, if you make any mistakes at this point, that is so common, and this is actually a great time to make mistakes because at this point, you can use a toothpick and just swipe off any problematic areas. Like right here, I kind of worry that my icing went a little too close to the edge, so I'm just gonna scrape off a little bit and I'm gonna repair it. I just don't want my outline to be falling off the cookie because that means that my flood icing might dribble off the cookie too. So that's what the toothpick is for just swiping off any problem areas and repairing them because this is the foundation. All right, I like to work on cookies close to me. So what I'm going to recommend is moving your cookies that still haven't been outlined, move them closer to your body. Because when you lean over too far, you lose a little bit of control when you reach across your body too much. And you also could get like a sleeve or an arm in your icing and ruin what you just worked so hard at. All right, the little bear. We're just gonna outline his whole little bear face and we'll do all the cute little touches later. Right, the heart. What I really like about the designs that we did for the samples is using the scalloped heart. You'll notice that we did some different decorating options where there's like a normal heart inside with some fun decorative touches around the outside. So I absolutely love that. I think we should do that on these cookies as well. But if you would like to just follow along the outline right now, you can do that too. Maybe I'll do it that way, Elizabeth. I'm gonna just follow along the shape of the cookie and maybe you can just go try and do a decorative edge like that.
So instead of me going at the very edge of the cookie, I'm gonna bring it in a lot closer into the center and just make a heart. Freehand a heart the best I can.
And if you're not happy with your heart, swipe it off and just try again. We included plenty of icing for you to try out these different techniques. So I just outlined the whole cookie with that scalloped edge. And now for the bumblebee. Okay, so the bumblebee, you'll notice this top portion here, this represents its antenna. So we kind of want to leave that area alone because that's where his little antenna will go. So maybe we should break apart this cookie and tell you about the different parts. He's going to have a head and he's going to have a little body and wings. So I think I'm going to do the body part first because I think that that's a large portion right here. And it helps you to see where the rest goes. So if you make a little line, maybe like from shoulder to shoulder, and then you head out a bit and taper like this. You can create his midsection. And then for the wings, it's a separate area, but I'm going to continue to use the same color in mine. There we go. And for mine, I think I'm going to do a little yellow head. Like that. And I'm going to leave the top alone. I'm going to add the antenna for detail at the very end. So you guys, you just did the first step. You just did your outlining. Great job. All right, so here we are at step 2. We're going to do flooding. This is the best.
It's her favorite.
It's my favorite because I feel like all of your worries can just get washed away. It's like very therapeutic, this part.
It's kind of like coloring.
It is. All right. Should we shuffle our cookies back? Let's
Yeah.
move
Which
those
one should we
original
start
ones back in front of us. I'm handling them very carefully by their edges.
These ones will be the most dry, so it's a good one to start with.
All right, so let's start with the hexagon. And when you flood, you can either trim your bag just a little bit more, or what I like to do is just test it at first to see how it's coming out. And I can see that it might take me a little too long and it might start to dry before I can finish flooding. So I'm going to trim just a little bit. I don't want to cut off too much and have it pour out. And then when you start flooding, you're squeezing at the very top of your bag. I like to go near the outside edge and just go in this little swirly pattern. But you can start from the inside out. There's really no wrong way to do it. And then when my lines start to meet up, I just kind of start incorporating the icing, blend it together, pushing it around so it stays wet still. I don't want it to start to crust over and dry yet because this is a big cookie.
If you're noticing that your bag is starting to have some white lines on it because you're pressing the icing too hard, you're going to need to cut your bag opening bigger or else your icing will explode.
Yeah, it's kind of like on the bag, sometimes when we apply too much pressure, the bag stretches like beyond its capacity. And I'm not seeing those lines to show you, but you'll notice if your bag starts to look like it's been stretched too much, you don't want to risk it bulging and exploding.
And then once you have the majority of your icing flooded onto the cookie, you can take the toothpick and spread it out to the edges that maybe didn't get enough icing yet, and you can smooth it all out.
Yeah, this is like for the minor details when you're just pressing it up right to the outline. And you want to get a good look all around the cookie, especially at the top, which is the farthest away from you. Make sure that it's spread out and it's going right up to the outline. You don't want to see any cookie peeking through. Now I think on mine, I'm going to add some sprinkles at the top to just make it a little bit fun, and I'm going to leave an area at the bottom because I want to write some words on it a little bit later. So in my sprinkle container, I'm not going to put these 2 special bumblebee sprinkles on yet. I'm going to set those aside for later. I'm just going to add some sparkle. I'm going to use this for a cookie to write on. and Elizabeth, she's going to just leave hers like that because she's going to show you a little bit more of our challenging design, maybe the more advanced design that has the drawn honeycombs on it and some of the bee lines on it as well. So we're going to show you two different options, two different routes you can go.
I'm going to wait to add my bee till the end.
Yeah, that way you
Till
can
it sets up
find the
better.
right spot for him. All right, so let's go on to our honeycomb, our beehive now. Again, I'm going to test it out and see, and sure enough, I definitely will want to trim off more. It was just coming out a little too slow. So I need to tell you all a story that I just remembered. It happened about 5 years ago, maybe even 6 or 7, who knows. I was inside, my girls were young at the time, and they were inside playing. My husband runs in the house after getting home from work and says, "Where are the children?" And I was like, wait, they're here. What's going on? He's like, "Look out the window." So we go to the window, and you guys, there is a bee swarm in our front yard that is landing in a tree in our front yard. The swarm was so large and dark that it looked like there was a whole, like it was dark over our yard. So this swarm, as we learned, they were traveling this time of year. Bees like travel and their swarms change locations. Something to do with like the queen needs to find a new place or something. And they protect the queen in a tree, and they build this whole like formation around the queen.
Oh my goodness.
So they decided to just hang out in the middle of our front yard in a tree. And it was so crazy to know that there were literally thousands of bees just hanging out. So we called a beekeeper. One of our neighbors recommended we contact a beekeeper, and they came and they said a little, gosh, for those of you who know about bees, you're really probably like, come on, Denise, why don't you know this? I don't know what to call it, but they transferred the beehive into this little box and took them away. And so now they can make honey somewhere. But it was a really cool moment.
Did anybody get stung?
No, and I guess they don't sting in moments like that. Like only if they're feeling threatened would they. They're mostly just looking for a new home for their queen.
Interesting.
So there's a little fun fact. I wish I were more knowledgeable about it. How'd your beehive go?
Good.
That's great.
Now, if somebody's cookie is flooded too much and it starts going over, would you suggest waiting till it dries to scrape it off?
That's a great idea. Yes, I would say waiting is easier to scrape it
I
off
think
later.
so too.
Because if you try to scrape off a mess right now, it's kind of like a waterfall. It'll keep going.
Yeah.
It scrapes off easily if you just let it crust over.
And if you notice that it went over because your line was too thin, and some of your other cookies you haven't done yet, the line's too thin, you can go over them now.
Yep.
Just to thicken them up.
All right, flower time. I think my bee story was too much for the last cookie, so I want you to now just do this one in quiet and see how therapeutic it feels. It feels so weird to be by somebody I want to talk to so much and not talk. Okay. In the center of the flower, we're going to add like the centers and the sprinkles later. Unless you want to now. By all means, do any sprinkling now that you'd like. But we're going to save some of those like sprinkled centers for later. All right, so let's try and transfer our cookies closer to us. I suggest that you just push very gently those brand new cookies you just flooded. Push those safely up and out of the way so you don't accidentally bump them or nick them. All right, so on the bear heads, I think we're going to both just be flooding it solid first. We'll do all those special facial features in our final stage. So let's keep the flooding going. You'll notice on all the cookies we're doing, we really put the icing on pretty thick. You don't want to see any of your cookie peeking through any thin areas. So it actually needs to be on pretty thick so it can dry nice and smooth. And the amount of icing you put on, it's just something that you'll get more comfortable with the more you practice. It just takes practice to figure out just how much icing to put on so it's not too thin and so it's not too thick and flows off the side. Trust me, I've had a lot of waterfall moments where icing has just poured off the side.
Me too.
I think it just tastes better in the end. More icing.
Yes, it is much sweeter.
And sometimes when the icing isn't settling just right and I want to get some difficult spots to go down, I just hold it carefully and tap it, and it just kind of helps it settle. All right. The scalloped one, we're going to show you some wet on wet techniques. On mine, I'm going to show you a way that we can make lines in the wet icing and then drag them together to create this fun, like kind of chevron pattern. And Elizabeth,
I'm going to show you how to do polka dots, and we'll do that all while the icing is still wet.
yes, the techniques we're about to show you can only be done in wet icing. We can't go back and do them to any of our other cookies now. It has to happen while it's just freshly put on. So we can get started with that. First step is just to flood the cookie as you normally would. And immediately after we get it all spread out and flooded, that's when we'll show you the special touches.
I always liked the marbling technique because it makes me feel like I'm making the most beautiful cookie, and it's so easy.
It's so easy. It looks so much fancier than it actually is. It's a super simple technique, but I think you're gonna love it. So I'm getting close. I just got all my icing on, and now I'm just gonna get it spread out. This one has so many spots on it near the edge. Okay, so while that icing is wet, I'm going to take, I think I'll take 2 different colors. I'm going to start with black, and I'm just going to make some lines going across the heart. I'm going to leave a little space between the black lines so I can make some lines using another color. I think I'll do white and black. My white one's trimmed kind of thick, but that's okay. So you might like how it looks right now. It actually looks really fun like this. And if I left this alone, these different colors, the icing would all just dry as one solid surface. But that's not what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to have a clean toothpick. I just wiped off any of the icing stuck to it. And then I'm going to go over to the side of the cookie. I'm going to actually push down on the cookie and gently drag my toothpick down. I move over a little bit and drag it up. Move over a little bit, drag it down, and I continue that process as I move across the cookie. And what you'll find is that the colors blend together in this fun way and just make it look so fancy. And that was so easy, you guys. And then Elizabeth.
So I'm gonna add polka dots into mine. And to start, I'm just gonna practice a few dots on the edge. So I'm gonna put a good amount of icing on and then press down and lift up. Just gonna practice a few because in the beginning it's not exactly how you want it. So you'll learn as you go. Maybe you can spiral it a little. And then I'm just gonna place them randomly in the icing and pull it up. I'm gonna switch colors.
That's a good idea.
And so this way it's set into your base layer of the flood.
And it'll just dry as one solid surface. So cute.
And you can just let it dry.
Aw, great. So with the next cookie, I think we're going to do some of that same wet on wet technique to give the bee his stripes. So the stripes are all just part of his skin. That's kind of the effect I'm going to go for in the center section of his body. I'm going to be flooding it one color and then add stripes with the other colors. So you can start in any part of this bee. You can do his wings first if you'd like. I'm just going to do the body. Oops, I just noticed my icing bag is a little bit exploding. So I'm going to show you guys what to do in case of an emergency like that. If you had a rubber band handy, you could put a rubber band on the top. I would just try and repair any problem not over your cookie because you don't want it to go on your cookie. There we go. I just fix the bag temporarily, but if you're at home and have a rubber band handy, that would be the best bet if something like that were to happen. But while I'm flooding a cookie, I try my best to keep going so it doesn't dry unfinished. All right.
Because then when you try and go back, it won't all match the surface.
Exactly.
So I did my bee's body yellow, and I'm going to go over it with black stripes in the same way that I just did the polka dots. And Denise just did her scalloped heart, but instead of dragging it with the toothpick, I'm just going to leave mine as stripes. So I kind of press down at the beginning and then press down again at the end.
Oh, that looks so good. Yeah, when you make your stripes, that press down at the beginning and end, it's like a little pause. It's a little moment that just helps to tell the icing where you want it to go.
And by doing the body first, if anything runs over, we can cover it up in the wings.
We have to tell it how to behave. I really want to start throwing in some bee puns so much.
I know, I almost said something about the bear being very cute.
Okay, so I'm going to do his wings next. Just kind of, this is easy in comparison because I don't need to do anything fancy to the wings. Just fill in that area this head.
Denise is a speed flutter. She's mastered it.
Oh, I wish I weren't. That's my favorite part. Now it's over. I'm so sad. I like the black outline on that. I always forget how much I like that look.
I do too, because I always think I don't really like eating black icing. But when it's little amounts like this,
Yeah.
it's so cute.
That is so cute. It's like cartoony when it's a black outline like that. It's so clean. I love it. What do you think your bee's name is?
It's looking like a Henry.
I was thinking mine was Geraldine. I don't know why.
I was gonna say Gerald. So
Were you
that's
really?
funny.
That is so funny.
All right.
All right. So you guys just did it. Stage 2, step 2 is over. So now that we're done with flooding, we're gonna let these crust over just a little bit and dry. I would say 5 to 10 minutes would be great if you could step away and just let them dry a little bit so we can put on the finishing touches. All right, so we took a little break. Our cookies have crusted over. I can see that they're more of a matte finish now. And we're going to get started with our details. First though, let's talk about if any of the bags you would like to start over again by putting them into a new bag, and that way you can trim it nice and small again. Some of you may want to reconsider rebagging your black because you might use black for different things, or any of the other bags that you know you've just trimmed too large. So I know for sure I trimmed my honey colored one too big, and I want to have thinner lines for my honeycomb. And here's how you do it. So off to the side, not over your cookies, you want to just clip off a big chunk of the bag and then put that bag inside the new bag and squeeze out the icing. And then you can tie a knot, have someone help you tie a knot, or use a rubber band at the top. We're just gonna start fresh with 2 different colors. I think I'm gonna save my other bag for now because I'm not sure if I wanna rebag any of my other colors. I will if need be. All right, so we rebagged some icing. We can trim it nice and little. Remember, it's always easier to trim more as you need to. But let's get started with our bear. Oh wait, we'll shuffle
Maybe
around
the
to where we start.
hexagon.
Yep. Back to hexagon. That way they've all had the right amount of time to dry. These are the freshest, or the most dry, I should say. So on my hexagon, I'm going to think about writing some words and practice writing or drawing a design or something. Elizabeth, you're gonna do the honeycomb.
I'm gonna do the honeycomb look.
So cute.
So if you look at the shape, the hexagon of your cookie, you're gonna try and copy that shape a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna start by doing the same shape smaller in the center. And it's just like how you outlined your cookie, you're gonna stop at the corners. And it might not look perfect, but you can finish it off by adding some more hexagons to the edges. And you can stop and pick up after each side if you want more control with it.
I love how that looks.
You can even add just a few like arrows to it. They don't all have to be hexagons. Maybe I'll add another one over here. And you can just play around with it and see what you like. And then I think I want to add my bee sprinkle. So I'm going to take out the bee and put some icing on the bottom.
It's kind of like glue.
Yeah, it's glue. And just stick it on there. Just press lightly.
Oh, it's so cute.
And then I'll add some marks to make the bee look like it's flying. Just a nice little dotted line. And then a little more dotted line over here.
Oh, it's so cute. I love that. I wrote BU.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so we can move on to our beehive. I'm gonna do a little sprinkle surgery here. There we go. All right, so for the beehive, I like how the same color looks on the same color. By using that same honey color and just creating some little sections along the areas where that scalloped edge happens, it creates like that pucker look, that there's little ridges on the honeycomb. So we're gonna begin by doing those lines. And I'm just going from side to side. And then I am gonna put a bee on mine too. I'm gonna glue a little bit on. Icing makes a great glue. And you can just place them wherever, tap it just gently down. And then using your black, you can leave a little bee trail. I don't like to have my bee make a straight line. They never fly straight, so they're just swooping all over. There we go.
And then I'm gonna add the other sprinkles. So I added a little yellow heart on the top of mine.
So cute.
And then I'm just gonna sprinkle a few of the other kind sprinkles on there to set in. And you can use your
Aw.
toothpick to help.
That's like home sweet home for the bees.
Yeah. Their home hive.
Oh, that's cute. Cute, cute.
Cute cookies for cute people.
Cute cookies for cute people. All right, so for the flower, I like to make the petals of using another color, any color. I might go for the yellow one. And so the way I like to do this is make some figure eights around the cookie. So I try to get the top and bottom to match. You can twist it just a little bit so you can continue working in that pattern of a figure eight.
And then for mine, I'm gonna start with a circle in the center.
Oh, that's good.
And then just do one petal at a time, starting from the circle and ending in the circle. And then while the icing's still wet, I'm gonna add some sprinkles to the middle of mine.
Oh, it's so cute. I'm going to do the same, Elizabeth. I'm going to add some sprinkles to the center, and I think I might put no, I'm going to save my other bee for a different one. Do you ever feel like you get to this point and you're just like, how can I use all the ideas that I want to use?
Yes.
Like there's not enough cookies left. I get so sad when
This
it's
is my
coming to an
favorite
end.
part, detailing.
I'm trying to push up my extra sprinkles onto the center. The rest I'll just shake off later. And then we can shuffle our cookies around. Let's push those so carefully. You just work so hard on those. So we want to be so careful with how we handle cookies at this point because they look dry, but the icing is so wet underneath the surface. Really wet. Okay, our little Pooh Bear face.
So we should probably do the bear first for extra details so like the mouth part can dry if we want
Yeah.
it on top.
His like snout area.
Yeah.
So to make that snout, I like to always, when I'm making a shape, I like to kind of start small and then just add on to it. So I can push it around, try and make it as symmetrical as I can until I'm happy with the shape. And on top of that, in a little bit, I'm gonna add some of his features. I'm gonna add a little area for his ears, give a little detail up there. These are kind of like half circles up here. And I'm gonna let those dry a little bit until I feel like I'm gonna come back to this one and add the eyes and the nose in the black. Oh, and I like how yours looks, Elizabeth, with the same color on the same color. That's cute.
Should we move to a different
Yeah.
cookie while that dries?
Yep, we'll let that dry. On the heart, I know I'm going to add my bee to this one. I feel like this just needs a little something extra. This would also be a good one to write a word on if you want to try writing, or you can just leave it alone. I'm going to do that little tick mark again with the bee trail.
And then for mine, because I left so much of the cookie, I'm gonna trace the scalloped edge with my black and bring it to the center so it looks kind of like a lacy outline almost. You can also do polka dots on the edge if you want to. But again, you're just dragging the bag across, and the tip of your bag is not touching the cookie.
I love on that cookie, Elizabeth, how all your polka dots are different sizes. I think the different sizes and colors just look so fun.
So that's another way to do the heart.
Love it. All right, the little bee. Okay, so let's maybe do the antenna first. We can add little antenna. And I always feel like on a bee, his face is so tricky to think about which way to go. You can either make him serious or you can make him more happy. I feel like he should be happy.
Me too.
So make little dots. Happy face. And because his wings just don't have a lot going on right now, I'm just going to bring some definition to them by highlighting them. I'm just going over it in the same color. It just makes it pop. The rest of him really is complete, so as much as I want to keep playing, I think he looks great.
He looks so cute.
Cute bees. Okay, we'll go back to this bear. Even though ideally giving it a little more drying time would be nice, not completely necessary. but we're just going to go and add some icing on top of this already wet icing. So there's like 3 layers of icing going on right now. So this is a lot. This is gonna be extra delicious. I'm making his nose like an upside down triangle. And then above his little eyes. You could draw a little smile if you want to, or you could leave it alone.
And
I think
then
it looks cute like that.
for mine, I'm going to make an extra big nose really close to the bottom of the cookie. And then fill it in. And then I'm going to add 2 cute little eyes. And when you're doing it, you can kind of spread the eyes apart. It gives it a cuter look. And then I'm gonna stick my last bee on his nose.
Oh, I can't handle it. It's gonna be so cute. So adorable. I love him. Or her.
Very.
Very cute. Oh, you guys, this has been so fun.
It has been so fun.
Thank you for joining us today. A few things about your cookies and like storage. So ideally, it would be great if you could just let these dry in your box. You could tuck them away in the box that your cookies came in, give them a chance to dry overnight. They won't dry out. You don't need to refrigerate them or anything. Just have them hang out in the box. I love how they taste the next day after they dry. The icing, I feel, it's just how it's ought to be. But
it is hard to be patient.
it is hard.
Though.
So if you eat one today, I totally get it. You should compare. See which taste you prefer when the icing is still on the wet side or when it's dry. And then after 2 days, if they're still not eaten, you can freeze them, or you can put them into a container with a lid, like a storage container, and that'll keep them nice and fresh. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We have a lot more fun planned for you this summer with some other really cute sets that we're going to do with you. So please share your photos with us. We'd love to see what you did. Tag us on social media, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and whether you liked your cookies or not, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this for you. We appreciate it, and we love that you joined us.
We do. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.